Good evening, and welcome to the Council Advisory Committee CAC meeting of December 9th, 2024. This meeting is being live streamed on the Town of Kentville YouTube channel. This meeting is called to order. We do have regrets from Councillor Andrew, but the chair does note that we have quorum. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today on Mi'kma'ki, the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. We recognize and respect that we are all treaty people. We also wish to acknowledge and honor the significant contributions of people of African descent who have called Nova Scotia home for over 400 years. We offer our deep gratitude to those ancestors of African descent who came before us and helped shape this land. I also want to note that this is our last meeting of 2024, and on behalf of the Town of Kentville, I just want to wish everybody a very happy holiday and a happy new year. We're going to be voting tonight electronically on all motions, except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues that we should be made aware of before the meeting starts? There's none? Okay. You have been provided with an agenda. CAO, are there any changes to this agenda?
No, there are not, Mayor Zabian.
Okay. I'll take a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councillor Maxwell, and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. All those in favor, signify by motion is passed. Okay, you have a set of minutes in front of you from the November 12th, 2024 meeting of Council Advisory Committee. They've been distributed for approval. Are there any changes to these minutes? If not, they will be accepted and filed as they are presented now. No changes? Okay. We have three presentations tonight. The first one is from the Annapolis Valley Regional Library. Julia Merritt is going to present. And you'll have 10 minutes to present, and because we have so many presentations tonight, we're going to keep it to the 10-minute mark. So, and if you see me flagging a little piece of paper up, that means you're 10 minutes and a second over, okay?
If you're good, I'll let you know when there's about 2 minutes left. Just, okay.
Super. Thank you very much, Council, for making time for me this evening. My name is Julia Merritt. I'm the CEO at Annapolis Valley Regional Library, and it's my pleasure to come here for just a brief introduction to the library system as it is, and a little bit of a review of library services, where we are right now, and a preview and update on the financial review that's taking place provincially. So, the total scope of the organization is to serve the three counties of Annapolis, Kings, and West Hants, and all the towns therein. So we serve a population of just over 110,000 with 11 different library branches. We also have our electronic branch, of course, with downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, and a borrow by mail service that serves all those who can't make it into a physical branch. You may remember that there used to be a bookmobile. That service was canceled in 2021 due to budget difficulties and decreasing use over time. We also recently joined a consortium with the other 8 rural library regions in Nova Scotia. There are 9 libraries in total, and Halifax being the only urban one. So we are now in a partnership with the other 8 regions, and we share our computer systems and all of our collections. So we have exponentially increased the depth and breadth of materials that are available to people across the province, and they only need to use one library card to do so. So that's been a fantastic addition to the services and an increase in efficiency and effectiveness of the funds that we do have available. As public libraries, we focus quite a bit on accessibility. So we have a wide variety of different ways that people can access the library if they do need to. These are just a variety of the formats that we offer. The ones that I will point out specifically are the Center for Equitable Library Access and the National Network for Equitable Library Service. Those are relatively new offshoots of what was formerly known as the CNIB, or Canadian National Institute for the Blind. So that is the same service, same materials available, but a different name. So that is available to anyone who needs it. And if you do know someone who needs a borrow by mail service, please do get in touch so that we can do an intake with them. We also offer programs and events for the full spectrum of ages at the library. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to engage in lifelong learning and to connect with other people in their community. That being said, we have had to decrease the amount of programming this year due to things that I'll talk about a little bit later. 23-24 briefly was a very good year for us. There was a total of 5% increase overall in library usage, and that's a 5% increase across all major statistical categories. The most increase was seen actually in Wi-Fi usage, number of Wi-Fi hours, and the number of hours of computer usage in the branches themselves. Both of those saw over a 10% increase, which is a 10% increase over the year before as well. So we're looking at a 20% increase in Wi-Fi and computer usage over 21-22. There's a huge need for connectivity and access to technology and ability to navigate those technological systems in the valley, and that need continues to grow, and we would expect that library usage will continue to rise as people face increased economic stress. Those two things go hand in hand. We had over 4,000 new memberships sign up in 23-24, so that's now over 24,000 active members. 1 in 5 residents in the Annapolis Valley is an active user, and that's not accounting for rural library usage patterns, which frequently have, as a family, if you're coming into town, there will only be 1 card used out of a family. So those are things to take into account as well. And our definition of an active user is someone who's used their card in the last 24 months. So you may have a card in your wallet and consider yourself a member, and we would too, but just for the purposes of keeping statistics tight, we are only counting those more recent usage. With respect to the provincial structure of libraries, there is the Libraries Act, which is nested provincially, and we fall under the Ministry of Culture and Communities. There are 9 library boards, 9 library regions, as I mentioned before, and 10 board representatives in the Annapolis Valley. There's 2 provincial representatives, which would be citizen representatives, and then there's 1 each council representative from each of the municipalities that contribute to the library's annual operating budget. In practice, some of those municipalities appoint citizen representatives as well, so there is a very good balance of municipal councillor and citizen appointees on the board. For the financial piece of everything, the total mandated investment across the province is almost $36 million, with municipalities in the province splitting things fairly equally. However, the funding ratios are flipped between the urban and rural regions, as you can see, and that is a minimum. So there are municipalities, especially Halifax, that do contribute more than what is dictated by the provincial formula. This is the funding for Annapolis Valley, $2.7 million total from all sources. This is a funding amount that has been the same for the last 5 years. There have been no increases for inflation or any other kind. And so this formula will expire at the end of March in 2025. And so the province has convened a funding review committee, which met over this past year in 2024 to collate research that was done in the early part of 2024 and 23 around salaries, collections, and technology. So we have up-to-date information on all those 3 major categories of spending, and the funding review committee was composed of library board members, library CEOs, municipal representatives, and ministry staff. We have as I said, collated all of that information and put together a suite of options for the province to consider in its budget making. Of course, that process has been disrupted, and so we did not have any major updates on what the process would be or where on the spectrum of investment the government would fall, but I want to make sure to keep you updated every step of the way, so that's what we know as of right now. AVRL specifically, the short version is that business is good and finances are really bad. We've had some as I said, mentioned before, there's some greater efficiencies. We've had service improvements. This past year, we eliminated all the supper hour closures. There were some branches that were closed from 5 to 6:30. We've gotten rid of those. We've made our website fully accessible. We have the Same Page Consortium that's increasing the amount and depth of the collection available. All of these things are great. However, we've really struggled in the last 2 years. We've had about 60% of the permanent staff turnover, and we now employ about as many casual staff as we do permanent staff, and we're still closing branches due to lack of staff availability. So all of these things are contributing to an inability to provide the services that are being asked for. We're saying
2
no
minutes.
to programs. We are saying no to partnerships that the province is requesting that we take part in, such as things like virtual healthcare appointments in libraries, all of these sorts of things. So I definitely want to emphasize the severity of the issue financially for us, and so we're going to be advocating very hard for the province to work with us on a funding formula that represents an appropriate level of service for what our communities need going forward in the future. And with that, I'll say thank you and take any questions with 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Julia, are there any questions for Julia? Council, you're not lit up, but you're good now.
Now I'm good. Now I'm good. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. It was good to see that you have the large print books, because it would be quite a while ago, at least 10 years maybe, that I was looking for them for my mom. And the library really didn't have anything, and neither did the stores, didn't carry very many either. So I think it's really great that we have that now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Is that funding review report that you did for government, is that publicly available? Is that on your?
It's not. I don't have a copy. It's with the ministry staff currently and considered confidential.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll see you at the meeting.
Yes, we'll look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Sorry, I hit the button.
That's okay. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Julia. Thanks for your presentation. So when I look at the formula there and I see the funding that's being done right now, so it looks like the majority of the funds that are coming from Kings County. So in conjunction with what you're presenting to the province and increased funding, are you also looking to some of the other more major funders to increase how they're supporting the library?
That's a definite possibility. We haven't had that conversation at either the funding committee level or at the library board level yet.
Okay, so when you proposed what you were proposing to the minister, there wasn't any part of that where monies would be forthcoming from the respective municipalities?
Yes, I think that would be part of the expectation is if the province increases the total funding, that there
Okay.
will be a proportional increase asked of the municipalities. Yes.
Okay.
But there was no examination of the actual formula itself in terms of changing the proportions
Okay.
or anything like that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I just have one question. This, I didn't realize this existed. This, is it Same Page program?
Yes.
So if somebody borrows a book, say in Bridgewater, and they bring it back to, say they drop it off in Kentville, does it stay in Kentville? Or do you have to send it back?
It will go back to Bridgewater.
It does go back where it comes
Yes.
from? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. I guess, oh, we've got one more here. Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you very much. You mentioned lack of staff, staff availability. Is that because of the wages that are being paid, or is it because there just aren't people in the area to take the jobs?
Primarily, it would be wages. The library has existed and survived and been able to provide the level of service that it has historically because of a very dedicated group of people who were willing to primarily be the second income in the home with a part-time job with irregular hours and low pay. Those conditions no longer exist, and we are no longer able to find people who are willing or able to to accept those conditions as part of a long-term employment. So we are having difficulty with not so much with recruitment, but definitely with retention. We've lost a lot of new people that we've had, but when you have a full-time job, when I started in 2022, there were full-time people making $32,000 a year, and we simply cannot expect people to stay and be providing the level of service that we're asking at that wage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We've got one more. Councillor Hamilton.
Just a quick question about that, furthermore about the wages. Have you looked at any self-serve models so that you didn't have to have as much staff?
Self-serve models, there are options out there for libraries, and we haven't investigated those primarily because we only have 1 or 2 staff on at any given time in most of our branches. The maximum would be 3 at the busiest branches like Wolfville and Kentville. So and we do struggle with single staffing branches because it does present a significant safety risk in many cases.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I forgot to ask you one more question, Julia. So when you make your proposal to the province and you have those sorts of meetings, are you going to be coming to the municipalities to ask for, say, letters of support? Will you extend it as far as that? Because it really does sound like you're in a dire situation, so.
Yes, we have had, the County of Annapolis did send a letter of support independently. We're kind of in a strange limbo situation where we don't have enough information to really be able
Right.
to say one way or the other what we need, but certainly I would recommend to the board that they return to the municipalities and ask for their support when we have enough information to be able to do that in a clear way.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have a presentation from the Oakdene Garden Group. And you'll have 10 minutes to present, and when you've got about 2 minutes left, you'll see the CAO give you a little 2-minute warning.
Alrighty. I know you are. All right.
Good evening, and congratulations to all of you for your new positions and things. The Oakdene Park Community Garden Group started in April. We had our first meetings. We took the boxes from 10 inches up to 30 inches high so we could reach them with wheelchair. And trying to get those all filled and things. So they are now filled. They have been growing.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
You're gonna go to
The primary goal is to make foods sustainable and help with the community and the need of our area.
We also have a body of committee members, and we have also our growing partners. As you can see, the committee members, we have a chair, Wanda, and Rosie is the chair, or the vice chair. Elizabeth is our secretary. Elizabeth is the woman in the middle. And Melissa is our treasurer. Myself, communications person. Roxy, Aaron is going to be our web designer. And then our Roxy is, you guys is like go-between between us and you. The rest of us are garden partners. There's Fran, where's Fran? Fran, right there, the top one, who does general everything. So with that, we do need more volunteers. So if anybody's listening out there, or if anybody here is willing to get their thumbs green, come on down or come on up. Oops, sorry. We've also had several community partners, Youth Workstons, helping us with a lot of different projects that we've been doing. We've had the EDGE group, which is volunteer for youth who come out and do projects with us. We've also had Kingstech giving us a whole lot of starting plants and
And a whole lot of information.
a whole lot of information. We've learned a lot in the last 8 months. We've also had Rosie's Daycare. We'll see a couple of pictures of the kids. Well, you'll see one right there helping us. And outreach program that you guys had. They came down and did a lot of different projects with kids and other things. And yeah, we started July 6th all the way up to today when we put up a camera. We've had a few issues with vandalism, but ever since the cameras came up and the police assistance, we haven't had anything for the last 3 months or 2 months, so which is great. On the 1st of June, we put up the bug. I forgot to put the bug up there. The bug hotel, and the water system was in July 13th. Greenhouse came up on 28th, and the birdhouses with cameras. There's only 3 cameras right now. We've had tons of birdhouses, as you can see. Funding. You want to do this or?
We have applied for 3 grants for funding. $2,500 one from TD Environment, a $10,000 one from the government of Nova Scotia, and a $25,000 one from the federal government. We have applied. That doesn't mean we've got any answers yet. So I understand that probably about March before we have answers.
And also the Lions Club, you can't see it at the bottom, has donated, no, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Sorry. The Lions Club was the Christmas.
We've had 2 big events, and one was the Halloween scavenger hunt, which were terrific. Over 200 people have went through the gardens that night.
Oops.
And this Christmas craft tables that we had at the Lions Hall, we made really good, and it was a really bonus project for us. Very quickly we got together, and within a couple of weeks we got a lot of crafts out and sold that day.
I also want to point out the pictures here. The first picture here is when we started. This was originally abandoned about 2 years ago. Another group had it, and I think they kept it for about 1.5 years or so. And then we created what we have now. And you can see on the other side what it pretty much looks like, minus the greenhouse. So we've made the place look good. We've done a lot of work, hard work for the community. We've given out a lot of food. People have come in and picked a lot of food that, we don't know who does it. Some of it's been vandalized, but some of it's been really used for the right purposes. And
What this doesn't show too is the bridge.
yeah, and the NSCC donated a bridge that goes across the creek, going from the park to the Oakdene Park Seniors Complex to allow the seniors come in and out. And we had a new sign done up. And we are also inviting anybody to our Christmas carol on the 20th at 6 o'clock up at the Oakdene Park. And we're going to have a bunch of people singing. And we have a group now. What was the group's name?
It's been Billtown Youth Group.
There you go, Billtown, yeah. Billtown's youth group. So Any questions? And we have 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
I had 48 seconds, so I was giving you a little
Oh,
bit
you
more.
know, I started before you.
One thing, while we were there and we painted the garbage
Oh,
bin.
yeah, the garbage.
And while we were painting on it, all of a sudden children were coming in and looking, can we help? And they very much, you see the garbage bin, you need to take a look at it because there was a lot of children that put their names on it and for something that was gardening.
I thought I put a picture up there, that's why I was looking through.
Well, thank you, Wanda and Stephen. I think we have some lights on here, so Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you very much for what you guys do up there at the garden. I actually went up for a tour in September when the greenhouse was going up. I had not been up there, and it was really great to see everybody that was involved and a lot of the community that came together. And I had no idea what was all going on up there, and it was really great. And you were really great to give a tour of everything there, and I really enjoyed myself. So thank you for what you do and all the time you put in up there. Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Wanda and Steve, for your presentation. I will echo what Councillor Hamilton said, and just what a tremendous thing that you're doing for this community. So we appreciate everything that you are doing. So well done, and thank you for everything.
Thank you. Without you guys helping us, and Roxy, helping us getting started, it wouldn't have been, this is a town effort, town union that, it wasn't just one person, it was a town that helped us out. It was a community that helped us out. So I thank you guys as well.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick questions, guys. Thank you. What are the plans for the greenhouse? And what can we do to help you going forward in the next year or so? I know you're waiting on your grants, but what can we do to help?
Well, any support financially and also
Labor?
Let's get into labor.
We're going to start about February to start planting the greenhouse. And hopefully they'll grow great to supply more food next year.
We've learned a lot over the year to what we should grow where in a garden. So this winter is just going to be planting the garden itself. Like Wanda said here, the greenhouse will be preparing seeds, getting started, and looking at getting tools, more tools. We're getting a shed as well, and we're taking one of you guys' shed, so which is thank you again. And we're going to store our tools in those.
The first 3 boxes there are right now filled with garlic to be able to pick next year, and onions. And what we need is to make the land accessible for wheelchairs, we very much like to have it because we've got a lot of seniors up there and they like to work around the plants too, and it's kind of hard for them to get around them.
Well, that's one of the major programs that we want to do next year, is to make a plan for the path that would go around the garden itself, and maybe even up towards the other end of the park. You're out of time. But having a path that's made out of good solid stone type stuff, so that wheelchairs can go in. Those that stone that you compress, and then wheelchairs can go in. And we have the greenhouse set up that wheelchairs access it, so it's a straight flow into the greenhouse instead of having to jump up a little lip.
Yes, and we do need volunteers, young ones, strong ones. Some of these things are pretty heavy for some of us.
Thank you.
So that's about it. Anything else?
Councillor Baker, we heard you volunteered. I hope that knee's healed by then, so looks like you'll be there. Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, thank you, Wanda and Stephen, and I've walked through many times with my dog, and it's just amazing, the transformation, and how much effort has gone into it. And, you know, kudos to you all up there, and kudos to Roxy as well, so, thank you.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, we hope our painted turtles come back next year.
We had a couple nests going. We don't know if they hatched or not, but yeah, they were fun. So that's it. Now, how do I get out of this?
Thank you both for your presentation. That was great, yeah.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Lorenzo from the, from the Annapolis Valley Mountain Bike Association.
Just taking a little peek outside there. We got quite a crew out in the hall, unfortunately, but we didn't realize there was a limit on the number of bodies. Find my-
And you'll have the same as the other two presenters, the 10 minutes, and CEO will give you a little warning when your 2 minutes are coming to the end. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you for the mayor, CAO, councilors for having us for this presentation tonight. I'm Lorenzo Catarini. I'm a board member and a representative of the Annapolis Valley Mountain Biking Association, otherwise known as the AVMBA, resident of the town of Kentville. I'm a cycling enthusiast. I've ridden and raced locally, nationally, and internationally. I've actually been riding in the Kentville area since the mid-90s. So who are we? We're a local not-profit association committed to supporting and growing mountain biking in the Annapolis Valley. The AVMBA is currently focused on the Kentville area and presently working to build a multi-use trail system for all users. We want mountain biking, hiking, trail running, snowshoeing, fat biking, and for all 4 seasons. These trails provide healthy outdoor recreation opportunities to all Kentville residents and provide our youth with a safe network of trails within the town of Kentville to engage in a healthy, fun lifestyle, enhancing wellness for all. So, who is the AVMBA? Oh, sorry, we went wrong. What is the AVMBA? Sorry. The AVMBA, so I'm just going to get away from this. My papers are out of sorts.
Lorenzo, I'm going to just stop the time for a minute to let you get yourself coordinated. When you're ready, just let me know.
It's the change in the format on the it sent an updated PDF, but the slides changed, and anyways, whatever. We'll work with it. So what does the AVMBA have to offer? So in addition to trail building and trail management expertise, the AVMBA has memorandums of understanding on 300 plus acres of land. This includes the Healy lands, the Parsons lands, the Ritchie sand pit, and we're working to get agreements on the Andritz plants lands and with Bryson's group. Our group feels it's super important to establish trails in these areas before they're developed. By establishing the trails in these boundaries of these large parcels of land, the trails become a permanent part of the new developments and will offer recreation opportunities to both new and existing residents. So who is the AVMBA? Well, our members range from age 5 to 75. We're predominantly Kentville residents, and our membership numbers presently is 95, but we expect to grow to over 200 next season. The AVMBA works with Valley Devo to create youth programming, and Valley Devo is using our newest trails at the KCA school that we just built this fall to run an after-school program. So we're creating outdoor recreation for all ages. So you can see the people that are here. We have our youth here, the Valley Devo kids. We have our Monday night Dirty Diva ride group, and we have our adult membership, and I'd like to thank them all for coming out. In addition to making trails, we're also creating economic impact within Kentville. And this is important. In the supporting documents on page 43 of the rail yard master plan, it shows the economic impact. We are the same distance from HRM as Truro. The HRM residents, they love getting out of the city on the weekend. So we feel, easily we can bring 1,500 visitors to Kentville. They'll come visit us 4 times during the year, once every 3 months. When they stop into the pubs, the coffee shops. They can go into the local shops. They'll spend $45 on average per the economic report. This is an impact of $270,000 in our area. And this is not a one-time impact. This is in the perpetuity. Once we have the trails and people are here, they're going to come and they're going to visit at all seasons. So to this point, the AVMBA has done most of this work privately through private funders. So our supporters have been the Cardiac Rehab Group, the Department of Medicine, Valley Internal Medicine from the hospital, Cycling Nova Scotia, Parsons Investment, Aberdeen Paving, Bentley Built Homes, and the AVMBA general membership. The first 2 funders, our large funders, are health professionals from regional hospital. That speaks pretty much volumes of what we're up to and what they believe in that we're doing. We also have 9 letters of support from businesses in town. The businesses see and understand that if we develop as a destination and we bring people to town, it's going to have a major impact in what's going on in the core. So so what are we asking of the town of Kentville? Well, we got 2 distinct asks, and the first one is related to the Donald Hills Connector. So currently, the Donald Hill Connector is a dirt road, and it's a major outdoor recreation opportunity for running, hiking, snowshoeing, mountain biking. When this trail's developed, we're going to lose a major outdoor backbone in the area. We would love to see a trail system, a multi-use trail system on the park side of the Donald Hills Connector, connecting Prospect Road to the landfill site back to the industrial park. This will connect and keep the connection with all our trails. It'll ensure the continuity of the AVMBL trail system. It'll enhance the lifestyle of the new communities being developed, and it'll help develop a buffer to the existing landowners whose backyard's going to have a busy road in it. The AVMBA doesn't really want a road builder building this trail. They build roads, not trails. We want the town to set aside a swath of land to build this multi-use trail and to set aside out of the capital project budget $125,000 so the AVMBA can build this multi-use trail from Prospect to the landfill. Our second ask of the town of Kentville, we need Kentville to become a partner with the AVMBA and help fund our 25 and 26 projects. Currently, we've funded the projects. We spent $90,000 on trails in Kentville this year. We made 5 kilometers of new trail. We built the Burger Hill. We did a KCA trail. We did the Parsons Trail. We did the Ritchie Sand Pit, 2.5 kilometers of trail in there, and we've done a Harvest Moon extension. So going forward, in year 1, 2025, we need to put signage up, heavy signage up. We have great trails, but no one knows where they are if they're not with a local. We're also want to build a multi-use trail from KCA back to River Street. We want to bring mountain biking, the trails right to the core. We want to extend the Memorial Field bottle rocket right down to Harvest Moon, make a little more of a fun trail there. We want to build a trail system around Oakdene Park. We want to service North Kentville, where there's a lot of youth up there and they're riding on the middle of the soccer fields. We also want to put an advanced trail in the gorge if possible, and we want to add youth lines to Burger Hill. So we want our 5 and 10-year-olds to be able to play on the hill, ride on the hill, and advance to the big trail. Year 2, we want to build on our partner lands. When this Donald Hills Connector is done, these areas are going to blow up. This is super time sensitive. the developers, the owners of this land, when it's developed and it's parceled off, we will no longer have access to build these trails. Right now, we can get in with our partners, build trails on the exterior of these large swaths.
2 minutes?
And including continuing continuity from and to our existing trails. So with all this, the AVMBA realizes that this is a large dollar amount for the town of Kentville. But our group, we're not looking for handouts. We've raised $35,000 in private funds this year. We've put $12,000 in kind through work of our group. So we put $40,000 into town of Kentville trails this year ourselves. In 25 and 26, in addition to the town of Kentville funds we're going to continue to add value, we're going to continue to bring private money, and we're going to continue to write grants for these projects. The AVMBA expects to provide $30,000 in 25 and 26 in kind through grants and through private funding. With the town of Kentville, we're asking for approximately $70,000 for 25 and 26. The AVMBA is Kentville residents. We're improving Kentville lifestyle and making Kentville a destination, but we need Kentville to be a partner. This map shows the existing trail system in Kentville. It is a large trail system. This is not, a 10-year build we're talking about. These trails exist. Like, we have over 35 kilometers of trail. We will be a destination with the addition of these 25 and 26 projects. We'll conclude our presentation there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Are there any questions for Lorenzo this evening? Hold on. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Lorenzo.
Hey.
Thanks for your presentation, and certainly thanks to all your supporters for coming out tonight. Like, it's pretty amazing to see a show like this, so I, as a councillor, really appreciate it. So just so I can get the fund straight, so the 125 would be the initial ask.
The 125 is out of your capital budget for the Donald Hills connector.
Okay, for Donnie, okay.
And because that is a major AT route, and so that trail could be part of the AT strategy. So that is an ask outside of the normal operating expense of the town of Kentville.
Okay, and then the 75,000 and the 75,000.
Yeah.
Those would be in the 25 year and the 26 year?
Yes. So we want to spend 100,000 plus in the Kentville area in 25 and 26. As I said, that Donald Hills connector is really going to speed up what happens in the upper side of Kentville, and the Brysons, the Parsons, the Healy land is not going to be around for a long period of time.
So when you talk about being a permanent part of new development, assuming that you have had conversations with these respective developers around putting these types of trails in?
We have, and we've built one on the Parsons land.
Yes.
And so as the developers we're going to be on the peripherals of their property, in the ravines and the gorges.
Okay.
And stay on the edges where they can't develop, and where we'll be in there before they parcel off the land, and we'll be part of the fabric of the community.
Okay. Nope, that's great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thanks, Lorenzo, and thanks for all the work that you're doing in the town, and all the efforts that your group has made to build trails and so on. I know that you're very enthusiastic. I'm wondering about maintenance of the trails 10 years from now, when maybe you're not as enthusiastic, or 20 years from now. Is there succession planning built into your group's plans? So who's going to take over after you're pretty much done?
Well, that's a great question. So we're building trails in a way, like, we're not building bridges, we're not building wooden structures, we're not building features. But you can see that we have the youth here. These are the next ones that are going to take over. They are coming out helping us with shovels and rakes now. And if they don't continue what we're doing, then they will lose all this. So our plan is low maintenance, but Also, the AVMBA has put in hundreds and thousands of hours over the past couple of years and are presently doing work in Kentville area.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you for that, Lorenzo. You covered a lot. You just go back across a couple things with me right now. So there are how many kilometers existing?
The total trail network, sanctioned and unsanctioned in Kentville, is close to 40 kilometers.
40, I had 35, yeah. Okay, and how much of that has been built in the last year on that, you said the 90,000 that you guys have put into it, or grants, or?
We added approximately 5 kilometers of trail this year.
Okay. Is that having to do any replacement on existing trails or upgrades on existing trails? Is that new trail or?
It's predominantly new trail. We built 2.5 kilometers in the Ritchie Pit. We did the Harvest Moon extension, the KCA trail, and we built almost a 1K loop up on the Parsons land.
Okay.
In addition to Burger Hill.
Which is, I guess I'm trying to get an idea of existing ridership versus what you're forecasting.
Our existing ridership within the Kentville area would be in the hundreds. We're a good destination. What we're see happening is HRM is a massive market. And as I said, they have a great trail system, the watershed trail system there. But on the weekends, they want to travel. Predominantly, they're going to Truro now. They're really not aware of our system. Just before the last meeting, when the corn maze was going on, we had, the picture I showed you was, there was a group of 12 from Halifax in the King's Pub. They will come up here on the weekends. They will come up here through the week. We're not saying that we're going to get 600 people on a weekend. We're saying we're going to get 120 people a week, probably 50, 60 on the weekend, 40 during the week. It's going to be a long, slow flow of people, but they're going to come to Kentville. Our trails are world class.
So they are fantastic trails, and thank you for hopping me across those. I guess the ridership that you have now, it's in the couple of hundreds, based on no signage, right?
Yes.
Little or no marketing promotion, it's all word of mouth?
Yes.
So is there a website that folks can, I mean, you and I looked at Strava and All Trails, and where did you get these maps?
These maps are a Strava heat map, the one that I just showed earlier.
Okay.
So presently, the ride experience for someone coming to Kentville without one of us that knows the trail is terrible. They miss 3/4 of our trails. So signage, directing them off of the Harvest Moon, off of the Donald Hills Connector, into our trails, markers on trees so that they can follow a loop around. We're gonna make the trail system user-friendly. It'll be, and then the HRM folks, out of province people will come here. We're gonna be the biggest trail system probably in Atlantic Canada.
Okay, but the number of users that are using it right now, I guess we want to increase local users who use it. You know, you and I were talking about kids getting back and forth to KCA or making connectors that way. What would we have to do to increase our local ridership before we go after the out-of-town dollars?
The local ridership is just happening. The Valley Devo is a great example. The after-school program is another good example. Burger Hill really brought out youth on a whole array of bikes and exposes them and tricks them into riding up a hill. It's a way, if they're having fun going down, like riding across the Harvest Moon Trail on pavement for a 10, 12-year-old is punishment.
Good for me, though.
It's great. It's a great trail. I'm not putting down the trail at all, but it's not exciting for youth.
Okay. So the idea is to build more trail. Now, when you're talking about the MOUs that you have with private builders, you've built the Parsons Trail, which looks great. My concern, just as an investor, is the money that goes into the Donald Hills Connector would be on Town of Kentville land?
Yes.
And the money that we would be putting in, should we put in money in other years, is that going to private land or is that going to Town of Kentville land?
It's, in the perfect world, it would go on, the Town of Kentville would accept land in a non-traditional way. They wouldn't accept a 100 by 100 square of 200 square foot chunk of land for a playground. They might accept a 10-foot swath for a kilometer, 2 kilometers around the edge of the property. In that, creating a park easement in a non-traditional way, then it would be on town lands.
I don't know enough about that too, but
I
thank you for that.
I
I'll
believe
look
there's
into
either
that.
financial contribution by developers or parklands. So we'd kind of be a hybrid model where we're in the back of the yards of the subdivision, in the last 5 feet, would be a 3 foot, 4 foot wide trail that goes around the perimeter of the whole parcel.
Okay. Thank you. There's a lot going on here, so
There is a lot happening, yes.
I'd like to talk more about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Lorenzo? Oh, Councillor Maxwell, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if this is for Lorenzo or not, but I'm on the Annapolis Valley Trail Coalition. And parts of the trail are under MOUs with trail groups, much like yourself. In order for, what my understanding was, in order for the municipality of Kings, which is most of those, where most of those trail user groups are, to do work there, I think those MOUs would have to transfer to the County of Kings. Is that correct?
I would have to look into that. I haven't been involved with the Trail Association other than attending
Yeah.
2 meetings that I think you were
Yeah.
present for, but
Yeah.
it's something we would have to look into.
Yes, I was at a meeting last week with it, and there was something about the County of Kings going on those lands and doing work when the trail group was the one that held the MOU. So I just had a question on that.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
all,
sure.
all the trails that have MOUs on currently are within the town of Kentville.
Yeah.
But it'd be a conversation we'd all have to make sure that we don't want to build a trail that's not going to stay there. And within these parcels of land, there are a lot of ravines that the developer just cannot
No, I
get to.
understand that. Yeah.
So the Parsons Trail that we built is a perfect example of where we stayed on the edge of the peripheral of sort of a watershed.
Right, I understand that, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Savage.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just one more question, and this may be for you, Lorenzo, or it could be through the chair to the CAO. I guess what sort of conversations has this group had with Director Langell? Recreation?
We've had extensive conversations. The parks have been supportive of what we're up to, but like the town of Kentville, their budgets are very constrained. So I believe they support us and they like what we're up to, but they're not really looking for another mouth to feed at the table. They have their hands full. So what we're advocating for is new funds for the AVMBA to work and build these trails. We're not trying to take funds out of the park's existing budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have our director's reports. CO, do you want to start with the directors?
Just if we could have a couple of minutes for
Okay.
people to come and go.
Okay.
It's like mental note and I'll come early next time.
I forgot the directors weren't even in the room, so.
You will be up, yes.
There's a bit of a delay as we're watching it. Oh, yeah, okay.
Can I ask you to just sit the second row back?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay, CO, if you want to introduce the
So I'll ask
directors.
Director Matthews to present the Finance Department report.
Bit of a
height difference. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I have a few reports to share with you. What I thought I would do is go through my written report. There's just a few areas I wanted to share some highlights around. Then I'll move into the operating statement for the general fund, the capital statement results, and the sanitary sewer results. So for this evening, I wanted to highlight, you will see that in the report, we've said that we have some short-term financing for $726,000. We have secured that through a non-traditional way, not a debenture, but rather a short-term loan through the Department of Finance and Treasury Board, and that will automatically roll over into a spring debenture. This is related to a temporary borrowing resolution that would have been passed last year and approved by the minister on December the 14th. But just due to the timing of changeovers and meetings, it was kind of moved forward in a different fashion, but no different dollar value than what you would have seen through that temporary borrowing resolution. I also wanted to highlight that we have initiated work with GA Eisner Consulting for the Kentville Water Utility Rate Study. We are providing data to them this week, and that work is underway, and conclusions and reports will be coming forth to Council probably within the last quarter of this year. I also wanted to highlight that Kenton Duffett, we had a meeting with them. They are our auditors for 24-25 fiscal year, and we do have dates for interim for them that will be in the early part of the new year, and those councillors who are on that committee will receive a meeting request in your calendar soon, along with a orientation timeline, because we do have new community members that are joining that group. I've also wanted to point out that our cap assessment information has been provided by Property Valuation, and it is 1.5% for this year. For those of you here last year, you may recall it was 3.2%. So that increase on those capped properties, along with our sales and any new builds, will influence the amount of revenue we will expect to receive. But we should be anticipating that revenue stream to look different than what it was last year. At the end of my report, I do share that our tax collection is at 2.81% of our total dollar value billed. Last year, it was 2.4%. Looking at that from a different perspective, I thought it might be helpful to have a sense of what that looks like from the number of accounts. Last year, at this point, we had 183 outstanding accounts. This year, we have 272 outstanding accounts, so an increase of 89, which based on the number of accounts on our roll, the outstanding is at 10%. So 2.8% outstanding dollar value, but 10% in the number of invoices that we sent outstanding. So just an area that I think we need to watch from a financial risk perspective. We do know that some banks have stopped collecting along with the mortgage taxes and then paying us, so individuals have to do it themselves. And we are expecting additional banks to do that next year, which may be contributing to not receiving those funds in advance, because our number of prepaid accounts has gone down by around 30 so far. So that's just an area I wanted to identify as we start preparing for what next year might look like. So those are my comments I wanted to share on my written report before I move into the financial statements provided. Would you like us to do questions on that, or do questions at the end?
Well, you know what, if there are any questions for the director on her written report. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Director Matthews. So for the tax payments, do the majority of people have those set up like as a bill payment, or are people still coming in paying them by check, or it just might be an area that we might want to work with our residents on in terms of,
it's a mix. Okay. So we do have quite a mix. The number of accounts that we currently have that are paying, that we have credits on, are 208. Mm-hmm. But our total accounts on the roll are 2,700, so,
Oh, wow, okay.
yeah. So it's still a large number.
Yeah, it sure
Yeah,
is.
and less than last year.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Matthews. The banks don't do anything for free, so when they are unloading the cost of collecting those taxes back to us, are they charging a service charge or anything like that we're no longer paying?
Not to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. That's okay, I'll shut you off.
No.
There you go, you're off, okay.
It's a flow-through, just
CAO?
direct flow-through to us.
And I'll ask the director to correct me if I'm wrong, but the biggest risk when the banks stop collecting
Yes.
is the onus is on the individual to make those payments. If you have a mortgage and it's through the bank, it's just part of your monthly mortgage payment, so it does create more risk. Ultimately, the municipality holds first lien on the property, but the last thing you want to find yourself is in a position where you're doing more tax sales. So is that accurate?
Absolutely accurate, that's the risk, yeah. And our number of tax sales are none since I've been here. They've been very, very low over the years, so just an area for us to watch. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, just another quick question. How long would we typically wait? Like, would we wait 3 months or 4 months before we would consider anything?
From a process point of view, we will send out statements to people after the first 30 days of non-payment and repeatedly provide that.
Okay.
And we do have someone who does collections who will reach out to people and try and help
Collect.
figure out how to do a payment plan and all
Sure,
those kinds
yeah.
of things. So that happens frequently.
Okay.
And then
Okay, good to
when
know.
it comes to tax sale, it would be
Sure.
what's within the MGA.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. But we are very active at reminding people and working with people to make payments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The statement of operations for the Town of Campbell Operating Fund is included in your package as Appendix A. You will see a change in that this month. So we're currently showing a surplus of $4,348,702. Last month, we were forecasting about an $88,000 deficit. This month, we have reduced that to pretty much a balanced position at $1,765. Overall, our deed transfer tax, we had spoke about needing to get better information to be able to do a reconciliation for that, to know how close we are. We have received information from PVSC along from Service Nova Scotia, so we're working through that. Preliminarily, we would say we're looking fairly close to what we've anticipated. I also want to thank the chief and his department, because the back check revenue is going back up somewhat. So we haven't adjusted our forecast reduction in that area. The other big change for this month would be that we have had conversations and received documentation from Public Transit along with Valley Waste. They had a surplus in their financial statements last year that has come to us. So those are over 150,000. So we've recorded those and forecasted that, which has offset some of the other areas. So right now we are looking and hopeful that we will have a balanced position as long as this snow doesn't keep up and get worse. But we do have a bit of a contingency in our operating reserves in the event that that happens. So that is all I wanted to highlight on this statement of operations for the town. Any questions from?
Are there any questions for Director Matthews? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Matthews, with regards to the deed transfer tax, just so I understand it, so we forecasted year ending March 2025 that we would have additional revenues of 375,000? Mm-hmm. Okay, and preliminary where we are right now, it's somewhere around that 133 mark.
We are actually higher than that.
Okay.
So what we've done from a predictive point of view is look at how much we've collected to the end of November.
Okay.
Then looked at the last 4 years. We took out that high COVID year.
Yes.
But looked at 4 years' data to say, what's the distribution? We had said to council, we're looking at 600,000
Okay.
collection. That generally is about 20% for the last part of the year, 25% last month. We're applying that to the 600.
Okay.
And adding that to our actual to say, if we're at the 600 mark and we normally would collect 20% for the last 4 months.
Yes.
We'll predict 20% of the 600 coming and add that to what we've actually collected.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, gotcha.
So
I do.
just trying to keep it as close to the 600,000, which was used looking at 10-year data.
Okay,
So,
wonderful.
and
Thank you.
As we get closer, we'll know how accurate that is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, hello, thanks very much for your report. When you mentioned that successful appeals totaled $3.73 million, resulting in a tax revenue shortfall, is that revenue or is that assessment that you're talking about?
So the assessment was 3.7 million less,
Right.
which then
What does it equate to in dollars then?
Just one moment. I think I included that last month. So if you look at the tax revenue, we are, our forecast is down 82,684. Most of that is related to those 6 areas. There were 3 residential and 3 commercial.
What were the commercial, can you say what the commercial properties were? Were they?
I don't have those names right with me, but each of them were around 200,000 to 300,000. The 3 residential were larger buildings, and one was 2.6 or 7 million, and the other 2 were multiple hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. If that's it for the operating fund, we'll look at the capital investment fund. You'll see a bit of a difference in the way that that's reported this month. As we're preparing to move into our next 5-year capital investment planning process, I've included at the bottom a report that talks about where we are forecasting more or less than what we intended to spend. How does that impact our funding envelopes for those areas? So that is what the bottom section is intended to be. And if we look overall, we've spent almost 2.9 million, 36% of what we had budgeted for. Our forecast is 4,119,848 on a budget of 7,964,978. So we have a large variance of over 3.8 million that we don't anticipate spending this year. And you can see from looking down, the Donald Hiltz, the connector, the ICIP funding is 2.5 million of that. So there has been some spend, but most of the spend we have this year is preparatory to get us to tender for the beginning of next year. So that's a significant one. As well, our Green Infrastructure Fund, there is sidewalk and roads for that area on Prospect, along with, both of them are Prospect, as I see here, that are well under budget. So that is a lot of that. And the Canada Community Building Fund, which is a form of tax gas, our storm sewer, most of that is around Spring Garden. We've spent a little bit on Klondike that we didn't anticipate. That's reducing that. However, that's 14,000. As well, there's some funding for Apple Tree Lane, correct, Dave? For 44,000. All of those will need to be deferred and carried over into next year because some of them have gone through a tendering process and whatnot, but the work will not begin until the beginning of the year. So that those areas are identified. In Parks and Recreation, you'll see in note 2 that there's 10,000 additional in spending for cultural. That is related to the cenotaph, which I know Director Langell spoke to you before. It was hard to get someone to do that work, and now that it's happening, it's coming in at a much higher rate than what we had originally budgeted. In our green spaces, we have the Gorge Bridge was removed. The work wasn't completed on it, which has saved us 59,000. And the pool and our skate park lighting were both items that Director Langell would have reported on prior to this to say that they've been deferred, given the way the budget has come in. So those are some savings there. When you look at the variance by funding source, I wanted to highlight that the first three items are areas where we can carry those forward to the future year. Those programs, the CCBF and the green infrastructure, can be moved over to next year. Our reserve funding, you'll see we will be deferring $176,500 for work that needs to be completed next year. And there's $48,400 underspending in other areas that will just free up some resources for our requirements for next year. The provincial grants contributions, those, if we do not spend the costs, if those aren't incurred this year, then we just wouldn't get the grant. So those are very much, we apply for a grant for a particular thing. Once it's concluded, that money doesn't carry over for something else unless that's specified within the contract that comes to us. So overall, what we're showing is of that 3.8 million that we've underspent, 3.665841 will have to move forward to next year for projects that are deferred or will be incomplete this year and will be completed next year. And then the areas that are under budget, you see there are 179,000, 146,000 of those will be available funding for projects for next year.
Okay, thank you, Director. Any other questions for Director Matthews? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Director Matthews. The upgrades to the cenotaph, and I know that this staff is so wonderful at applying for grants, but I'm just wondering if there might have been something like through Culture and Heritage or something like that, that we could get some help with that. Thank you.
Yeah, there would have been a small infrastructure grant under 25,000, but we applied for that for the rec hub heat pump.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. Yeah, summer. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So one last statement.
Okay.
Lot this month. We have our second quarter sanitary sewer statement of operations, and that is showing that we are forecasting a $208,000 deficit in that area. It is main contributors to, one would be our revenue. We did include a 10% increase in revenue, anticipating we would have some rate increase along with volume increase. We have seen about a 6% increase in the industrial side because of our meter program, but we are predicting almost 122,000 less in revenue than what we have budgeted for. We've also included in our forecast $88,000 that we have been provided by the County of Kings related to power and work that is happening related to the sewer abatement. That's probably not the right terminology. I'm looking to Dave.
Yeah, most of those overage were for the plant itself and
Yes,
power and operating costs.
and power and operating costs, because they have their
blowers on
all the time due to
the odors down.
Yes, keeping the odors down. I thought, so that was 88,000. So those two are the main contributors. As I said, we are working through our water rate and our rate study, and the intent would be to do work around the sewer, but the water is the first one that we will be engaging in. So just for your awareness that is an area that we are anticipating a deficit. We do have some operating reserves that can offset that, but it will be very close to wiping us out. So, yeah. And that is the sewer operating statement, if there's any questions.
Okay, any questions for Director Matthews on that report? No. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, and to Director Bell's point too about that overage from the regional sewer through the county, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But the power costs were way up. So you were saying that it will pretty much deplete our reserves. Mm-hmm. So presumably when we go to look at this in the ensuing year, we're going to be building in something for reserves.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the last year we haven't, you will not see, let me just grab it back. We have transferred to operating reserve of 175,000 forecast, but we also have funding the 260,000 there going into the depreciation reserve. So the operating reserve is the one that would be more close to being depleted.
Yeah,
If we're
for
at
sure.
208.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
not the depreciation reserve.
Not, of course.
Just to be
No.
clear.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome. And
Okay, I guess there's no more questions. Thanks for your report.
you're welcome, and I wish you all a happy holiday season.
Happy
I'll
holidays
take that
to you.
opportunity now.
CAO?
So I'll ask Director Shoup to present the planning and development report.
Thank you, CAO, and good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public and staff. Short and sweet report tonight. The month of November, we were basically working on catching up on our summer backlog of applications. General organization, we've now had Ben Kroll here as Development Officer for just over 3 months. He's really getting his feet under him, and it's been us work through our different processes, and he's feeling much more comfortable and confident. Another note that wasn't mentioned in the bullets in the written report, updates to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw were given approval by the minister. For those were coming from the Bryson application from the summer. So those have gone through, and we've updated all of our website and such to make sure that we have the latest versions there. Excuse me. In terms of the bullets in the report, in November, we processed 7 development permits to a grand total of $161,000 worth of estimated construction. Next month, in January next year, we'll be looking to put together a year-end report. So that's part of the organization process that we've been following to try to make sure all of our stats are up to give that comparison from year to year that's been asked for before. So we'll get that together for January. 2 subdivision applications were submitted, 3 site plan approval applications, which actually add up to quite a number of new apartment units overall. River Street, 2 buildings at 89 units per building, which Ben is working through currently. There's also at Hebrew Court another 3 8-unit apartment buildings on the north side of Hebrew Court that have been are in the process of being reviewed. And at Ryan's Park, we're putting together the final touches on what had gone through earlier this summer, and approximately 190 to 200 units for that development. In terms of planning applications, the only one of note is that the Hebrew Court, the rezoning application where they were looking to go from an R3 to an R4, they've withdrawn that application, and they're looking to see what they can do as a right through their R3 zoning that it currently exists. In terms of on the flip page and community and economic development updates, Center Square has been winterized, so a lot of the furniture that had been there for the summer has now been stored. The new tables have been installed, so be a different look for next year. And the holiday beautification has been complete, and we're well underway with that now, which basically stem from the holidays, festival events, and will carry forward. The only other one to mention here is the Fire and Ice Festival, which will be in February. So Lindsay and crew have been working towards getting that ready to go. That ends the report.
Thank you, Director. Just a quick question. You said on River Street, 2 buildings? How many units did you say? I heard you, but I'm going deaf.
2 buildings of 89 units per building, so 178 in total.
Wow, okay.
Is what we're working through right now.
Wow, okay. Any other questions for Director Shoup? Hold on. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. I'm just wondering on River Street where those units are. I don't know where they're going to build them.
It is, if I wish I knew my address is better, it's directly next to Chrysalis House. There's a vacant property there that it's, I can get the more defined answer for you here in a bit. I just have to look it up, but it's right next door.
It's next door to...
west of, it would be west of there.
West of there, okay, but not beside Shanix.
I think it's in between,
It's in between,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Shoup, so the Hebrew Court. So I've had a couple of citizens ask me about that area, and I have explained to them that they have a site plan, they have site plan approval now, and that they're working within that site plan. But the way I understand your presentation tonight, or your report tonight, sorry, is that they have applied for an as-of-right through the R3 zoning. So what some folks have asked me about is the piece of land that they were going to request to be rezoned to R4 is now going to stay R3. So when you talk about an as-of-right through the R3 zoning, what are they looking at doing with that amendment? And can you go into a bit more detail as of right? I don't really understand as of right as well as I probably should, so I apologize.
Right. As you and council may recall, from earlier in the summer, we had a variety of interpretations that came forward on how many units could be conceived for an R3 zone.
Okay.
And based on the access, the amount of road frontage access that they would have. So what they're looking, they wanted to take this route basically, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but again, I can bring them back.
Oh, that's okay.
They wanted to, I believe, at this point, they're looking at kind of replicating what they already have in terms of the 8-unit structures. They haven't submitted anything yet, so this is the early days, but that was my understanding, is that they decided to take it back to the drawing board and see what they could do at the R3 scale, which would allow them, as of right, up to 8 units per building. And a number of buildings, because we can do multiple buildings in an R3 zone through site plan approval. It would be an amendment to their original one, which has already been amended once.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it had already been amended once.
That's correct, yeah.
So it can be amended as many times as long as it fits within our LUB.
That's correct. My understanding prior to my coming on staff was that they were looking to do it in a phased approach from the beginning.
Okay.
So from originally it was townhouses. They switched to a different format suiting the economy of the time and the market demand for particular types of housing. And now they're looking to carry that forward to finish off the development. But again, it's prior to receiving a new application, so I don't want to speak too much in advance of receiving that.
So they can't really move forward with any of this until that site plan amendment comes forward to council?
Would be through the development officer.
Right, okay.
Would review it, but that would be the next step, is for them to come in with their amendment and see where we go from there. But that's the general track for it.
Okay.
Right, because they're already zoned for.
That's right.
Yeah, it wouldn't come to us. Okay. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you say, Director Shute, the 2 subdivision applications that we received, where they might be located?
I could if I had that information with me, but
okay.
Again, I can get that information and share that with council.
Thank you. Can I ask a second question?
Sure.
If I may? Of the units that have been approved recently, and the special initiatives coordinator may be able to answer this too, how many of those are non-market units?
That's not something we typically evaluate unless there's different grant programs where they could consider that. But it's not something the development officer would look at, how they're being marketed or sold, or their price points or anything like that. That's totally on the developer to determine where that should fit. At this point, again, there's different municipalities that have that as part of their planning documents to have some consideration for non-market. We don't currently, so.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Director. Just one question, and I think I've asked before. With the Hebrew development, some of that land up there is designated for park. Do you know how much is park? Is it the area that's running behind the houses? Yeah, do you know?
I don't know the exact square footage of it, but it is on the western edge. And you may know this very well, Councillor, that there's a turnaround area.
Yes.
And it's within that zone, and they have been speaking with parks on how that should evolve. Ongoing discussion at this point.
Okay, because I was just wondering, because behind their townhouses, there really isn't a lot of space between the townhouses and the houses. So I was just wondering how much of it was park. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
I think it has to be through the chair to the CAO, because I'm still trying to understand this. Because you made a comment, Mayor, that if there is an amendment to the site plan, that it goes through the development officer, and then it does not have to come back to council. I'm thinking of Encore Developments. Maybe that's what my head's thinking of when they had an amendment to their site plan approval.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as I've referenced many times, planning is not my strong suit.
Oh, okay.
But my understanding is as long as it still fits in the category as of right, that it doesn't go to council if it were.
If it's because of the as of right.
It's allowed as
Okay.
of right.
Yep.
But please, I'll stand corrected if the
No, that
director
makes
wants
sense.
to.
Yeah, so through the chair, it is that process. There are certain criteria for site plan approval applications.
Okay.
If they're appealed, then they come back to council, and that was the
Gotcha.
case for the Encore development.
Yep, okay, okay.
So unless there's an appeal, it would just go straight through with the development officer kind of shepherding it along the way.
Okay, that's great.
And
Yeah.
and I think, and I could be stand corrected too. I think with Encore, because they had an agreement with the town, and they changed what they originally proposed. That's why it came back. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Director Shoup? Okay, I guess you're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And Director Langell will present the Parks and Recreation report.
Hello, Mayor and Council. For the month of November, I just wanted to quickly highlight a few items here. Under Facilities and Operations, I just wanted to highlight some of the data we got from the Annapolis Valley Trail Coalition and County of the Kings on our active transportation network. Our numbers are up from 2023 or 2022, whichever year you're looking at, from when the establishment of the active transportation trail has gone in, particularly in regards to cycling. So cyclist participation has gone up. Also under Facilities and Operations, I wanted to give a shout out to our park staff for redecking the bridge from Klondike into Miners Marsh. For those of you that have been on council before, I'm sure you've heard about the bridge and the condition it is in. It is now fixed, and that was due to our parks team. Under Arena, I just wanted to highlight that our arena closures and holiday public skates are now on the Town of Campbell website as well as on social media. So if you are looking for those times, please find it on those mediums and those networks. And then finally, under community outreach, I just wanted to mention 3 particular events that we participated since the last time we chatted in November at CAC. We will have additional information coming to you for the partnership gathering feedback that we received. We had around 30 partners in our community that came out, as well as the arena conditions assessment and feasibility study, that engagement session that was in December. So thank you all for attending, for each and every one of you. It was a great session. We had 37 community members that came out, but we've also had a good uptick in our surveys being completed online. And then the final outreach was the Rec Connect. So that is a partnership with Acadia University, where recreation professionals, community development professionals get to spend an evening mingling with Acadia University students from the community development department. So it was a really great opportunity. We've actually had some students that are going to be working with us through the Hemlock Conservation Project, as well as coming on as summer staff that we typically do. So 3 great events, 3 ways that we've connected with the community over the past month, and I just wanted to highlight those. That's it.
Thank you, Director Langell. I see you, Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Director. I'm just wondering about the pool assessment that we were going to have done to look at what was going on there. Has that been completed yet, or have they come up from Acadia yet?
Yeah, they have not arrived in the province yet. Yeah,
Okay.
so we would be the second stop on their visit here after Acadia.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they're still down there, is that?
They're the company's from Ontario. They have
Yeah.
not made it up here yet.
Oh, they haven't come up yet?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if they were going to come before we got rid of the snow. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Langell, I just wanted to another shout out on the Klondike Street to Miners, the bridge decking that was replaced. It looks amazing. Like there were so many like big bump ups from like where the holes had been replaced or have been repaired, but it's really nice. And I know a lot of people are really happy with it, so thanks for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Director Langell? I guess you're off the hook.
All right,
Thank you.
Chief Smith will present the police report.
Good evening, Deputy Clerk, Council, CAO, Mayor. Your report, I sent a message to the Deputy Clerk. I hope she didn't send out the initial one that I had provided because there were some numbers that were off. But if she did, I'll correct those. Criminal code charges, initially I had put down 69. I hope you don't have that one because that was a little bit. You do? Okay, that's a typo. It was 31.
Okay. My question's gone.
Okay. And calls for service were 322 for the month of October. Yeah, so I'll start off by staffing. Our staff's doing quite well. We're all, the new staff are settling in, getting used to the area and blending very well with the other members in the community. So the month of October is very busy again for training. As I said, the fall picks up a lot for us. So I'm actually in training again tomorrow. So there's not too many weeks go by that we're not doing something. Meetings were pretty typical for myself. I did attend some WCB psychological injuries in the workplace. We had a reward ceremony. Something to highlight, though, we've had a co-op student with our service. This is the first time we've done this in, I'm going to say probably 7-8 years. It's been a while, so it's kind of a test phase to see how it goes. So we have a student that's from Horton School that reached out early on, and with our community engagement sergeant and the community crisis navigator, they're taking the lead on that. And I believe she has to have a total of 100 hours over that term. So she's working out quite well, and I'm sure some have seen her out on the street or during the lights, the holidays and stuff. She was out with us as well. She's enjoying it and has an interest in policing in the future. So we did the trunk or treat at the school, the Nova Scotia Fallen Officers Memorial. Navigator was busy again in October. Calls are listed there. I continue to work on our policing standards, which was released by the province. A couple highlights to note on charge files, which is something I haven't talked about much at these meetings, CAC, but we had a search warrant that was completed based on evidence that came in of Nova Scotia Power was broken into, and we ended up, our GIS section patrol located and retrieved the items. That was one of our bigger files. We also had one where a local dealership had some items stolen that was theft over, resulted in a search warrant in another town, in Bridgetown, with the assistance from the RCMP, and located those recovered items as well. So there's been, that's just to touch on a few of the bigger files that have happened over the last little while. If you follow us on social media, we try to update these things on a regular basis now compared to what we used to do, just to give the public an idea of the good work we're doing. So that is my report for October. And we have our next board meeting on the 17th, 20th. Thank you, Councillor. It got changed, so, and hopefully by then we'll have a decision on our other board members.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Are there any questions for Chief Smith? I guess you're in the clear.
No, it can't be.
Oh, yeah, there's one. Councillor Savage.
I does have a question. Thank you, Mayor. So, Marty, when you talk about the 331 calls for service, I know that was in September, and you said it's about the same for October.
Yeah, 322.
322.
Yeah.
So, a good portion of those calls would involve the Community Crisis Navigator?
So in her, she had 15 referrals in the month of October. So again, those calls for her don't get populated.
Oh, right, yeah, of course.
Some can, if a call would come in and we refer to the navigator, then yes, there's a call that's already created, but she doesn't work off of that file on our system. It's, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, our calls have been pretty consistent around the plus 300 in the last few months. Yeah.
Okay, so that sort of dovetails on my next question, and just not to put you on the spot, but I will. Folks in the community, I think are seeing more people who are unhoused in our community.
Yep.
And if there was any advice that you could give to residents in Kemple and surrounding communities around, when they're interacting with people who are living rough or unhoused, what would some of the advice be? I know that's a very general ask, but I think it's really important because I think it's important.
Yeah, I guess it's a perspective on the individual themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as I've said many times, being homeless isn't a crime.
Nope, not at all.
And these people can be in tough situations and
Yep.
situations that we're not familiar with.
Yes.
Most of us anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just because you see someone walking around downtown with a backpack doesn't mean that, you need to fear for your safety. As I've said many times at our last meeting as well, that yes, we do get calls of concern for people that are around downtown, but the majority aren't. The majority of the calls aren't because they've done something to somebody. It's just them being around.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing that perspective. Yep, thank you.
Yep.
I guess you're off the hook now. Thank you, Chief Smith.
Thank you.
So Director Bell will present the Engineering and Public Works report.
Thank you. Thank you, CAO. Good evening, Mayor and Council. A good part of my report sort of is follow-up to what Director Matthews spoke of with our financial situation in both the Water Commission and the Sanitary Sewer Area Service. And I'll start with the Water Commission. As reported in the past and updated in Director Matthews' report, the Water Commission requires a rate study as the current rates have been flat since 2019 and our expenditures exceed our revenue, leaving us in a deficit situation, relying on dwindling operating reserves to balance the operating budget. And as Wanda mentioned, we have contracted G.A. Eisner Consulting Limited, a Nova Scotia firm that specializes in these studies, and also completed our most recent rate study way back in 2015, which had a 5-year implementation from that year through to 2019, where they have been flat since then. So our finance and engineering departments are compiling the list of requested information now, and we expect to have all that information to the consultant by the end of this week, so they can begin the study. And once completed this winter, the consultant will file the rate study with the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, the NSUARB, and represent the Water Commission at the mandatory hearing, presenting the study to that board. I'll also mention, I know committees were appointed, I guess, at the last meeting in the end of November, so we do need to schedule a Water Commission meeting in the near future. I guess we're getting late into the sort of the Christmas season now, so I anticipate probably a January meeting, and we'll speak to the mayor on that, and that will be sort of a double meeting with Water Commission, typically preceded by source water protection meeting, so usually on the same day, but we'll get those scheduled and ideally sort of mid-January, I suspect. Okay. Sanitary sewer area service, similarly, our sewer rates have been flat since 2019, and the service is in an operating deficit as well. So, and also relying on reserves, which are nearly depleted. As an example of increased operating costs, the town's annual portion of the regional sanitary sewer operating budget, certainly the biggest single line item in our sewer operating budget, has increased over $300,000 or about 42% since 2019. So with the assistance of Eisner Consulting's model from the water, we will complete a sewer rate study and bring that recommendation to council. It doesn't need to go to the UARB, but it'll come to council in the fourth quarter of 24-25 for approval and implementation into the new 25-26 fiscal year. The Stormwater Management Master Plan on November 20th. I guess you all were in attendance for our stormwater consultant. We and they hosted a public information session. It was a productive meeting, I felt, that started with a presentation by the consultant, followed by an opportunity for residents to, in attendance, to ask those questions, which they did, and identify problem areas that were added to the consultant's map database. They expect to have a 50% report to us. Actually, it did arrive today, in fact, certainly in very draft form for us to review. And once the timelines are closer to the completion of this report in the new year, we will book a venue for the final presentation to council, most likely in February, certainly at a larger venue. One possibility may be the fire hall. We will be looking into that. And I guess the last real thing on my report for this month, there's an application that's out now called the Growth and Renewal for Infrastructure Development Program, acronymized as GRID. So the province of Nova Scotia has a funding opportunity out now for construction to be completed in the 25 construction season for up to 50% of the project cost. Eligible projects include stormwater renewal and sidewalk replacements. So we don't have our study, of course, but we do know some areas that are at end of life just because of the materials. So we identified the following project as a priority for the town that can be shovel-ready to tender this winter and built in the 2025 construction season, which is required under this grant to be completed by March of the following year, 2026, but ultimately has to be built in 25. So the section of curb, sidewalk, storm sewer, and storm manholes and catch basins on the south side of Main Street between School Street and Prospect Avenue is just over half a kilometer long and at its end of life. The storm sewer is, as mentioned in previous meetings, is galvanized material. It's galvanized steel and has deteriorated to a point of requiring replacement. And it's located essentially directly under the concrete curb on that south side of Main Street. So the catch basins along that route are made of a similar material and also require replacement. Once the pipe portion of the project is complete, the concrete curb and a 3-meter sort of double-wide sidewalk that's there now would be replaced. That was built back in the early 80s and also in need of replacement. So we are working on the application now. It's actually, it requires detailed estimates and descriptions and has an application deadline of this Friday, December 13th. To complete, the complete project is estimated at around $2.4 million. And although there is no guarantee of a second round of funding to apply for next year, it is anticipated this will be a multi-year funding initiative by the province. So the size of the scope is best split into 2 construction seasons, but have to do what we can do in one application for 1 construction year. We would recommend splitting into 2 phases. Phase 1 would be estimated at a value of $1.33 million. So the grant we'd be applying for of half of that would be $665,000. With the expectation that a second round of funding would see the project completed in 2026. One of the requirements for the application is a resolution from council, and Alicia is going to speak more to that, I think, in her report coming up shortly, to get that proper wording and things as a resolution, so we can attach that to the application. We plan to submit it prior to the deadline, so probably Wednesday or Thursday of this week to get that into the province and hopefully we're successful. I guess the last thing I had, I just added as we were sitting here waiting for my turn to speak, a little update. Of course, everybody know we had a little touch of winter on Sunday, and overnight trucks and our plow trucks and sidewalk machines were out. We were lucky we did get, if you've seen it out, it's the brand new 2-ton truck number 15 on the side of the truck, the big gray mid-size, I guess, 2-ton truck that we bought under this year's capital investment program. Just got it ready for the road on Saturday in-house with our mechanics. So timing was great as one of our other aging larger yellow trucks is out at a service until later this week. It's out over at the big truck repair shop in Centerville. So down one truck, but should have the fleet back full capacity within the week. But it was certainly a must, and great to have the new one back in service, essentially, because the one that it replaced was put on the shelf as of the end of November, done inspection and not fit to or certainly financially feasible to spend the money to renew it as it was being replaced anyway. So just want to give that bit of an update, and that's my report.
Thanks, Director Bell. I just have one quick question. You explained this to me before, and I'm just at a blank right now. When the consultant files that with the UARB, just kind of guide us through that process.
I guess I have been involved with one, Mayor, but not in my role here with the town. They file a very large report, of which there are a few dozen undertakings that come back from the board that they have to get the answers to, and actually probably CAO Lawrence has been to more of those than I have. Here. But he's ready.
I've been involved in a number of them. Jerry Eisner and I think it's Blaine Rooney, consulting will work with finance and public works to prepare a very detailed report with a lot of costing information, breaking down what the budget is currently, what the anticipated deficit is if you keep the rates current, then what the needs are for the organization over the next 3 or 5 years. I'm not sure whether we're doing a 3 or 5 year study. And then it goes down into breaking out what is a portion of the water utility that is chargeable to fire services, and what is the portion of the water utility that is chargeable to potable water. As an example, your disinfecting system doesn't get charged off to the fire portion because you need water to fight a fire, but you don't need treatment. The board will receive it. The board will review it. It used to be that you got a couple of dozen IRs, information requests. Lately, they've been a lot more detailed in their asks. So I would anticipate north of 50, probably, information requests. The consultants will answer some of them, and they'll come back to Director of Public Works, Engineering and Public Works, and Director of Finance for input on others. There would then in the interim, the rate study has to come back to council for endorsement to send to the UARB. Then the UARB goes through, asks for information requests. There's a public hearing where the report is presented to the board. The board asks questions. Groups can file as interveners. Sometimes the board will allow somebody that is present to just ask a question. Ultimately, the board will come back and say yes or no. I'm sure I'm missing some steps in it, but it's a very technical report that's filed, and certainly it's one that is needed here. I think it was 2018 or 19 again, the last time we did a water rate study.
15 was the study and 19 was the end of that 5-year
so
implementation.
Again, pre-COVID and pre-increases in costs for just about every component in the water utility. But I know the deputy mayor would have been through a number, and she would have been at the level of director of finance. She would have been at a more detailed level than the CAO would have been, but if you like numbers and tables and tabulations, you will like the report that is prepared. It's very thorough, and these individuals probably do 90% of the rate studies that are done for the water utility in Nova Scotia. Halifax Water may do their own, I'm not sure, and there may be one or two others that would use an engineering company, but north of 90% would be done by this company.
Okay, thank you, CAO. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Bell, so that was very helpful. That was part of my question, and so if you fast forward beyond what the responses were, with sewer and water, with the rates, as they would relate to residents, and presumably as this goes on, there will be a recommendation brought forward to council to adjust the rates accordingly as per the report that comes in. In your experience, or anybody's experience that has done this before, are those increases, particularly to the residents, are those gradually introduced? They're not all at once, or maybe they are? I don't know. I've never.
So the challenge with gradually introducing them is that you continue to lose money during the introduction stage, so you're always chasing. The UARB,
okay.
what they provide for the water utility, that once approved by the UARB, that is your rates for the next 4 or 5 years.
Oh, I see.
You don't have an ability to change those. You do have, because it's not UARB governed, you do have some impact on the sewer rates. But again, if you look at our costs increasing by 46% since 2019, if you try and increase your sewer rate, and that's the principal driver in our sewer rates.
Sure.
If you're going to try and increase rates by 3 or 4% a year, you're never going to get to the point where you're making meaningful progress. So there may be some ability to look at some phasing in on the sewer, but you have to get to a point of equilibrium relatively quickly, or you're pushing the problem down the road and escalating it for future users.
And so is there sort of, what would be the rationale as to sort of the time gap here?
You mean why we haven't increased our rates in the past? I would assume that the fact that COVID happened, I don't know, I can only speak to my time here, but that would have probably played an impact. And then also the changeover in staff.
Exactly.
So the director of finance has been here approximately 2 years, that she would have a learning curve. I think Dave is the old guy in the club with his 5 years experience around the finance table. So that would also play a role.
And that makes a lot of sense, so thanks for that. Yeah, thank you.
Year one would certainly be the biggest increase, and the subsequent years would be more for just growth and inflation. And,
okay, okay, thank you for that, thanks.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe you answered my question, CAO, about why it remained flat for the last 5 years. My next question, I guess, is about the stormwater management inputs from residents. Have you had a significant number? Are you missing any, or is there anything?
Don't know if we're missing any. Had a lot of. We've tried some different methods, I guess, or ways to make that sort of streamlined. But we've felt the best. The best has been for residents that have pictures or videos, or even just text information that they want to share, has gone through our project engineer, Ahmed Kadri. So he's been receiving those and essentially forwarding them on, for the most part, directly to the consultant, Dylan Consulting. So no, it's been certainly a good sharing of data from all over the town. So, felt they know where most of the problem areas are, but certainly all the ones that we've received were beneficial. Video and stills and just even some body text emails that have been helpful for them to work on the report.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. I have a second question,
Sure.
if I may, or I can wait.
No, go ahead.
My second question is about the grid funding.
Yes.
Just so I understand this, my purpose is to understand what the town of Kentville is going to have to put out. So of the 1.3 that we're applying for this week, fantastic that you're getting that done. or if we need to
Otherwise we
pass
miss
a
it, yeah.
resolution. Yeah. So 665 of that will be funded this year, and then should the same, sorry?
Yeah, next, like, this is all, yeah, 2025 capital
2025,
year.
the first,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yep.
year one.
Yep.
And then in year two, we would apply for the second portion of that, so another 665, assuming half gets paid for, so TOK's on the hook for 335?
Give or take, yeah.
COA? Oh, did you want to
sorry.
say something? Sorry,
Through the-
Director
through
Bell.
the chair.
Once the director's finished, go ahead and finish.
We estimated the complete phase, which would, or the complete project, which would be split into roughly two phases from again, from School Street to all the way to Prospect. You know, the phase one, we proposed it to be around the 1.335 range, and the whole project being 2.4. So yeah, 2.4, a little less than, but yeah, it would be roughly, if it is 2.4 and 50% funded, 1.2 over 2 years. 1.2 million of the town, 1.2 million funded. So, but it's a roughly 50-50. It might be a 55-45 kind of split. The amount that we wanted to do in year one would be just slightly over half of the whole project.
Thank you for correcting my math. I
No
appreciate
problem.
that. Yeah, thank you.
CEO?
Yeah, and when we talked about long-term capital this year and where we would and where we wouldn't use borrowing, we were restrictive as far as administration went as to where we would look at borrowing, and it was for these large capital projects with a long lifespan where we received other level government support. So a project like this, while it may be $600,000 in cost next year, it would be a candidate to look at debenture funding, whether that was over 10 or 15 years in the future, which would spread the cost burden over the users. The infrastructure is end of life, and if you see the cones and everything else that we have out here, it creates liability concerns for the municipality. So they're the sort of project that we want to receive funding assistance from the senior levels of government, but it would fit within the criteria that we look at for debenture funding.
Okay, thank you. Any other correct questions for Director Bell? I guess you're done. Thank you.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
You as well. CAO?
So now the administration report that you've all been waiting for.
Patiently.
You would have the administration report. Department orientations are complete now, so that was a big part of administration. I'm pleased, and I know the chief is pleased, that the collective agreement for KPS is signed off, it's finalized. And from my position, some of the more noteworthy meetings, you were at the REMO orientation session, most of council, and as well, the mayor and myself were at intermunicipal service agreement board meeting where we looked at King's Transit and we looked at Valley Waste, and the two topics that were up for discussion were the governance model and the funding model. We're not in a position where we can give details as to where that is going, but the discussions are interesting. Would that be a fair
Yes,
statement,
very fair.
For the deputy clerk, and I don't know, I'm terrible with names. I want to call you the deputy mayor, but I don't want to get. So the code of conduct and her work on the code of conduct was appreciated, and we now have a path forward for that. And she attended the fall NSFM conference, and for the strategic initiative coordinator, you're going to hear from her on an update on the Housing Accelerator Fund, and as well work that she has completed with the Director of Public Works, who tried to steal her thunder on the grid funding application. But and then if there's any questions on environment or the EDI section, I would refer those to the deputy clerk for her answers. But happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Are there any questions for the CAO or deputy clerk? You're just on by mistake, right? Yeah. Okay. I left you hanging. Okay, I guess there's no questions. Those are the staff reports, so they'll be filed as presented. And I just want to thank the staff for a great 2024 and wish you all a happy holiday and happy new year. And we'll see you in 2025, but you're not done because there's another staff report. There's more coming, I knew there was.
It was,
But I wanted to say that in case I forgot.
so, there was.
Oh, yes, CAO, you have
There was,
something.
there was a couple of missteps with getting the legal fees to council. The first one was on me, the second one was on technology and the server being down. But you would have the summation as of September 30th for legal costs. I think it's roughly around 23,000. If there's any specific questions, I will try and answer them, and if I can't answer them, then perhaps the Director of Finance can provide some input.
Are there any questions for the CEO regarding this report? Nothing, okay. Thank you. So now we're moving on to unfinished business. We have the Housing Accelerator Fund update from Ms. Christie, I guess.
Yeah.
And the desk is almost
I
the
know.
right height.
Every single time. That's okay. It's great. We can move it. All right. Yeah, this one, good evening, Mayor and Council, and for those of you who are still here, this is just, I'm going to make a brief statement on this, the providing the Housing Accelerator Fund to you in a report fund form versus a memo was more so for new councilors to have a chance to take in the information, as previous councilors have seen it multiple times. The biggest piece to take in is on the second page, that where you can see what we did submit. This September is what I realized it was. Time kind of goes crazy. When did we send that in? And so you can see the initiatives that we've submitted there, which we've talked about in this room before, and that council approved for submission. And at this stage, we just wanted to let you know that we've been in conversation with CMHC. They've told us that communities are likely to hear the verdict by the end of the year. I don't want to hold our tongues too much on that. It might be January as well. So I do want to name that for you. So I know this is our last CAC together this year. So if we do hear anything, we'll likely communicate that perhaps through email communications, or if we hear anything in December, hopefully we can bring it, or not, yeah, December, into that January CAC for you. And I do want to remind Council that this funding rollout was the 2.0 version of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and it was different from the first one. We do have neighboring communities who received the first round within Kings County and Wolfville specifically. What we were able to do within the HAF 2.0 is very different than what was available in the first round. So if we are successful and community is looking to Kentville to do similar things that the town of Wolfville has been speaking to, or Kings County, we'll make sure our communication is very clear that we have different restrictions. It's the same fund under the title, but very different requirements for what we could submit and what was possible. So the 5 we have included are from the list of 10 best practices that CMHC provided, and they provided it with a really gentle wink, wink. If it's not these, no dollars, is sort of what they said to us. So that's really the report. We just wanted to let you know there's an update. If we hear anything this month, we will let you know. If not, we'll speak more in January.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Christie? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Alicia, the 1.0 for Wolfville,
Yes.
they're successful in funding.
Yeah.
How much did they get?
Oh, that's a great question. In my mind, it was like 1.1 or 1.2, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
And it's over 3 years.
It's over 3,
Yeah, and that will be the same for us,
Okay.
whatever that looks like. And I do, in this report, I did include in budget implications that the way the application works is you have to project how many housing units it could result in.
Okay.
Which then produces a dollar amount. Right. What we've heard from our representative and from the neighboring municipalities that is not likely the dollar we would see offered.
Okay.
It really depends on funding available and their perception of our application, and then it becomes a negotiation back and forth. They might say, well, we'll give you 1 million. We'll say, okay, if that's the case, we can do X, Y, and Z, which what we submitted. So that'll be a conversation that you folks are involved in.
Okay. Well, thanks again for putting in that application, and I have a really great feeling about it. I think we're
We
going to
will
get it.
see what happens.
Yeah. Put it out there to the universe. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. So moving along, we have some citizen appointments recommendation here from staff. Deputy Clerk, do you want to speak to that at all, or? All right.
Hello, everybody. The Environment Task Team has been on our radar for maybe 6 months now. The climate coordinator, Sophia Munoz, she has been helping us very strongly with a lot of our initiatives. And one of the initiatives in that 3-year program where we have that kind of external climate coordinator staff person, one of our programs is a 2 to 3 year, so it really overlaps with her work. It's a program called Net Zero Communities, and it's really it's a kind of a guided conversation and engagement process to help a community talk about energy opportunities, renewable energy, energy efficiency that can happen in your town and in your community. So this has been a really extensive pilot project that's happened in New Brunswick, and there's a number of communities that have gone through this program and had some of these coordinators really understand the process and kind of hone it and get really good at having these conversations with a focus group, which would be this environment task team, and also with the community. So I encourage you to look at some of the communities that have taken part in this and see the kind of conversations and opportunities that they've identified as a group and as a community. It's very different from community to community, and I think it will also be very different in Nova Scotia because we have Nova Scotia Power. It makes the conversations a little bit different. I also think that in Kentville there has been a bit of a pride in the history of our energy independence. We had our own energy utility here, and we don't anymore, but people really had that pride, and this might be conversations that result in some kind of other project that brings back that pride and energy. So I'm really excited about this project to see how these experts in community conversations and energy bring groups in the community, in the town together to talk through opportunities and ideas that folks might have. That said, the Environment Task Team, it is more of a focus group specifically for that program. So we want to have a set number of folks who are participating as kind of the lead community team representing Kentville. We'll also be doing larger engagement with residents, but this would be a team that would be the go-to pilot team for this program. So we have someone who has biology and birds and rare plant research. They're also an outdoor enthusiast. We have another person who is from the private sector, and they're really strong in strategic planning and sustainability plans. And another person who is very strong in the renewable energy, community energy, and the engineering side. So I think that we have a lot of really strong people who are recommended as appointments. And I think, I can't remember exactly who's on this task team.
I think
Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Councillor Savage, maybe?
Councillor Andrew.
Councillor Andrew, right, sorry. So those are the appointments. I hope that I kind of explained the program really well, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, so I guess there's no questions. We have a recommendation here then. That Council Advisory Committee recommend to the January 27th, 2025 meeting of Council that Council approve the following citizen appointments to the Environment Task Team: William Marshall, Carrie Goods, and Emma Vost. If someone could move that, please. Councillor Savage and Councillor Maxwell. Is there any discussion on this? There being none, I guess, are you ready for the question? That Council Advisory Committee recommend to the January 27th, 2025 meeting of Council that Council approve the following citizen appointments to the Environment Task Team: William Marshall, Carrie Goods, and Emma Vost. And voting is now opened. Not yet. Okay. Voting is now closed, and the motion passed. Okay, thank you, Deputy Clerk. So our next item is under So we're into new business now. So we had a presentation, I guess, from Director Bell a little while ago about the GRID grant, which will support infrastructure for water, sewer, wastewater, stormwater management, and housing infrastructure. So do you want to, Ms. Christie, do you want to give another little recap? Yes. Welcome back.
Is this on? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I don't even really need to give a recap. Dave did a great job for me. This is such an easy night. Pretty much the whole first page of this report is included in Dave's as well. Go team. Wonderful. Really the biggest piece there is that council understands that there's no budget commitment at this time. It's the approval that for staff to send in an application, and you would make that budget decision during your budget conversations. One thing about this project that we haven't yet named is that it is eligible for stack funding. We cannot stack other provincial dollars on top of it, but we can stack federal dollars on top of it, or different things like FCM and whatnot. So within phase 1 and phase 2, if we move forward, staff will continue to look for other opportunities to help fill those dollar signs out and get some more support. So it doesn't necessarily end here, but this is what is available right now. The application process has been going well with the three of us pulling the pieces together. So at this stage, when we submit, it just names that we've put a motion in front of council and it'll be approved in January. Even though we submit on Friday, that doesn't implicate our application and doesn't change whether or not we would be successful, where they know that is coming forward. And once we have an updated motion, if you pass it or if not, we would let the province know in January, and they are aware of that prior to our application. So right now, the pieces that we're recommending that you approve our submission of the funding application for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Leave it to the mayor to give the official wording.
Well, thank you very much. So our motion would read: the Council Advisory Committee recommends to the January 27th, 2025 meeting of council, the council approve the submission of a funding application to the 2025-2026 Provincial Growth and Renewal Infrastructure Development Program. If someone could move that. Councillor Savage. And a seconder? Okay, Deputy Mayor Kroll. Is there any discussion on this? There being none, are you ready for the question? On the adoption of the motion that Council Advisory Committee recommends to the January 27th, 2025 meeting of council, the council approve the submission of a funding application to the 2025-2026 Provincial Growth and Renewal Infrastructure Development Program. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. Motion passed. So I just want to note that there was no correspondence this evening. I skipped that by mistake. Now we're going to move on to 7B, which is a financial request from the Annapolis Valley Mountain Bike Association. Just a little information for some of the new people here that grant requests are typically done at budget time, which is in January. So it's kind of food for thought there. I don't know where council wants to go with this. Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion related to this item.
Okay.
That Council Advisory Committee recommends to the January 27th meeting of council that council review the Annapolis Valley Mountain Bike Association financial request during the development of the 2025-2026 budget.
Okay, and you move that, right?
I move that.
Okay, and a seconder. All right, Councillor Maxwell. Okay, the floor is now open for discussion on that motion. Councillor Baker.
Is this an appropriate time to ask for information on whether funds that are designated for the Donald Hiltz connector build, by removing the active trail that's there now, is it appropriate to consider that funds that would go into an active trail that would be included in that build might be sought, discovered, or is it put aside? I'm just trying to be general.
No, well, no, because the motion, you got to keep it germane to the motion on the floor, which is if we're going to deliberate this at budget time.
Okay.
So yeah, it wouldn't be the appropriate. That's no problem. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. So and I asked this during the presentation, the ask that was asked was the 125 plus the 75 plus the 75. So presumably out of the deputy mayor's motion, all those amounts would be deliberated at the time.
Deputy Mayor Kroll?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And you're still good with seconding? You were the seconder, weren't you?
No,
Oh,
Councillor
You're
Maxwell
still
was.
good with seconding? Okay. Okay. Is there any other, Councillor Baker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question is, then, is it appropriate to ask for that information now before the Donald Hills Connector tender goes out? Or should we wait till January to debate it?
CAO?
This might be one where I want input from the Director of Public Works. My understanding were that there is land that is available to the gorge side, which is the side I think that the Annapolis Valley Mountain Bike Association will want. So that land is available. Any discussion on funding and allocating funding towards that. We do have about 9.6
I believe.
million in funding towards some of the infrastructure, but perhaps the director can speak as to what that was allocated for.
Yeah. Because you probably already allocated.
It is, and it was, I'll just get up a little bit. We applied for the funding 2.5, I guess, years ago. That funding it was green infrastructure funding or that sort of funding that doesn't include road construction. So with that 9.7, we're not building a road. We're putting the underground infrastructure, extending the water system from where it ends today, farther west towards the business park, doing stormwater management, some additional sanitary sewer for future expansion, but most of that sewer would be perpendicular to the road to take wastewater from the south side of the Hills corridor to the north side, but it's really for infrastructure. It's not road construction. So, this project is much larger than a $9.7 million project. So to finish that road, there would be a travel surface created over top of the pipes that will go roughly in the middle of that 100-foot wide right-of-way, and there will be our own AT pathway, multi-use pathway, I guess, is proposed to be on the south side, the higher side of the road, somewhat elevated, somewhat protected, so that the pedestrians and or bikers that we will use that. What we're proposing is a 3-meter wide paved surface, but a very linear and smooth surface. Maybe not the path that the mountain bike folks are envisioning. And I understand on the north side. So we have a wide right-of-way, and there will be room on the north side, the side closer to the gorge. But money certainly wasn't allocated to build any of that, including the AT portion on the south side. It is solely for the underground infrastructure or stormwater management, ponds, those sorts of things that will fully use that 9.7. The 9.7 is the 73 1/3 is the total amount. 73 1/3 of that 9.7 is federal and provincial funding, and the other 26 2/3 is our own funding over the next 3 capital construction seasons, 25, 6, and wrapping up in 27. During that period, we'll be applying for hopefully more federal and provincial money to finish the street with curbing and paving and our own AT component that we're seeing on the south side. So certainly there was never any intention to finish any of the road with that $9.7 million. I guess if that answers the question.
Correctly, the AT path will be removed for the infrastructure construct, or it'll still be available?
That path, yes, it's become an AT path. It was built in 2000 as a service road for Public Works and Water Commission to maintain the water line that's under there. That's why it's there. It wasn't built really as an AT path. There may have been some enhancements to it, but when they laid the water line in 2000 to switch Kentville over from surface water to groundwater, that's where the 2 water lines, in places there are 2 water lines. The whole length of that corridor has raw water, well water from from our wells on Mitchell Avenue, comes through the business park, past Valley Waste, all the way to Prospect. And then the water line comes back roughly halfway to McDougall Heights as treated water. So again, part of the infrastructure money is to extend that treated water through to the business park where it is now, and build a new water tower, decommission the tower that you see by the highway up in the business park. That tank goes away. A newer tank on higher ground is built, and again, that's included in that $9.7 million. But that has become an AT pathway, but it was built as a service road. That's how I refer to it. Craig's department, refers to it as the AT pathway, and probably so does a lot of folks in town, but it was built as a service road.
So Director, if there was
Councillor Baker, I'm just going to stop. You don't have the floor right now? Yeah, no, that's okay. So the motion was about deferring this to budget time. So are there any other questions about that process? Councillor Baker.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And just the point that the director made is that the AT path that is going to be constructed, or the funding that might be available for an AT multi-purpose trail, wouldn't be for some time until the road is constructed. If that is my understanding. So I'm wondering whether timing is appropriate to talk about building an AT trail.
Well, I think, yeah, what the whole purpose of that motion was to let staff review it in the new year, because as a budget, we work on it collectively with council and with they don't determine the budget without us, we work with them.
Thank you.
So I think that was the whole point of that conversation.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't missing an opportunity that was too early, and now the director's pointed out that it'll be much later. So thank you, Mr. Director.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, all this jumping around is a little confusing, but AT trail, AT pathway, it's AT. It should be flat. It should be accessible to wheelchairs. It should be accessible to skateboarders. It should be accessible to pedestrians and so on. So I definitely would not want to see that pathway turned into a mountain bike route.
Well,
so just to make it clear.
And I don't want to further take us away from the motion, so I'll be quick. The plan was always, when we get to road construction, to put the multi-use trail, which would be what you're talking about, to the south side, Director?
Correct.
The Annapolis Valley Mountain Bike are looking for what would be more trail that could be used for the e-bikes, mountain bikes, everything else to the north side. So they can be complementary. They don't necessarily have to be one or the other. The motion on the floor is about whether this is better discussed at budget time than now.
Correct. Thank you. So I guess there's no more questions. Are you ready for, no more comments, I guess? Ready for the question. The motion was that Council Advisory Committee recommends to the January 27th meeting of Council that Council will review the Annapolis Valley Mountain Bike Association financial request during the development of the 2025-2026 budgets. And voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. I guess that's the end of our new business. We're now at public comments. If any of the public would like to speak, you're invited to come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. Just state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes. I guess there's no public comments. So Council Advisory Committee now has to move into a closed session. We will not be returning to YouTube Live. So if I could get a motion to go into a closed session. Deputy Mayor Kroll, and seconded by Councillor Maxwell. All those in favor, please signify by raising. Those opposed, motion's carried. Thank you, and thanks, staff. Happy holidays to all of you.